Welcome, everybody. We're so happy that you could be here this evening.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you all for joining us for our Bittersweet presentation on the dangers of sugar in the American diet. It's a perfect topic to help introduce our new program, Eating for Your Best Self, and we'll explain that later on. So this is Mary Ellen.
And I am Evie. Thank you all for being here today. Just to let you know, if you have any questions during the webinar, you will see a little chat bubble on the right side of your toolbar. Feel free to type in your questions, and we'll be happy to answer them at the end of the presentation.
Great. Okay. So just as a way of introduction, Evie and I are certified holistic health and nutrition coaches, working with busy people who want to feel better and have more control over their lives, their health, and their happiness. And we first met during our health coaching certification program at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition and found we were like-minded in our holistic approach to coaching and nutrition. However, we each bring different backgrounds and experience to our collaboration. At IIN, we each received our health coaching certification where we studied a variety of dietary theories and practical lifestyle coaching methods. And we're both members of the International Association of Health Coaches and the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. I've been a weight loss coach for over 10 years, and through an elimination diet several years ago, I discovered I had IBS and leaky gut and food allergies, and I set out to correct my digestive issues and chronic pain through diet and lifestyle, and I've helped my clients do the same. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology and a teaching certificate, and I've been a longtime student of nutrition science and coaching methodology.
And I am also a practicing health coach with degrees in biology and integrated nutrition. I truly believe that everyone can improve their health and maintain a healthy weight by eating a nutritious whole food diet. I love working with my clients to help them achieve their goals for healthier, more energy-filled, pain-free lives. My personal journey towards a healthier lifestyle started about 5 years ago when I began having joint pain and just felt generally tired all the time. I felt I was way too young to be feeling this way. So with the help of my holistic doctor, I changed my eating habits by eliminating sugars and processed foods that were causing the inflammation. Today, I am pain-free, and I've lost that puffiness that comes with eating those harmful foods. I love the food that I eat now, and I'm eager to share what I know with others. So today we'd like to give you some background information on one of the foods that is quite possibly the worst offender when it comes to your health, processed sugar. By reducing or eliminating this type of food, you will feel and see immediate results. This is why sugar is one of the top foods we target to eliminate in our Eating for Your Best Self program.
Yeah, we know today Americans are faced with an obesity epidemic, and it's in the news. You can't miss it. Everyone's talking about it. And
so
statistics show that 2 out of every 3 Americans are overweight or obese. And there are many studies that support the theory that the U.S. is on a fattening trend. In a phone study conducted by state health departments in 1990 indicated that obesity practically didn't exist. And then by 2010, just 20 years later, all 50 states had an obesity rate over 20%.
That's amazing.
You got to ask what happened in this time period causing the fattening of America.
Exactly. Well, Mary Ellen, let's take a look at some of the changes that occurred during this time. First, there was the invention of high fructose corn syrup. And as you know, high fructose corn syrup is a liquid sweetener that is very high in calories. At about the same time, a new farm bill in the United States was introduced where farmers were paid directly by the government to produce more corn. This then led to a huge corn surplus. We actually had more corn than we could consume. To make matters worse, the government raised the price of conventional cane sugar, making it cheaper and more appealing to use high fructose corn syrup in manufactured foods. As a result, high fructose corn syrup began replacing sugar in processed foods, especially in the soda industry. And while this was all going on, the government published its first ever dietary goals for the United States. In this study, fats were identified as a leading cause of heart disease and the fattening of Americans, not sugar. When the food manufacturers reduced the amount of fats in processed foods as a result of this study, they started adding in other ingredients to compensate for flavor and texture that were now missing from those foods. And guess what the major filler was that was being used? Sugar. All of these factors that I just mentioned have led Americans to add more sweet, sugary foods, especially those made with high fructose corn syrup, to their diet. And all of this was occurring while obesity rates were on the rise. Besides the food industry... Did I
ever tell you about during this time, I was living with a roommate, and she worked for Nabisco, and our whole linen closet was filled with snack wells. Do you remember those?
Oh, my gosh.
It was
yes,
the low-fat craze, and so it was just more sugar in the foods, right?
And we all thought that we were eating so healthfully because of that. Thank you for reminding me of that. So taking a look at this slide now, you can see that there were several other factors that affected our lifestyle besides those snack wells, such as fast food industry increasing, higher sugar content, less fiber in our foods, chain restaurants. The food industry continued to use science to make foods taste better in an attempt to make us buy more. At the same time, we're moving less and sleeping less and feeling more stressed from the modern world. So back in the 1980s, there were actually many popular diets out that demonized fats as the culprit for the rise in obesity. As a result, food manufacturers, as we mentioned before, started selling low-fat products like the snack oils, right, and added more sugar to compensate for this lack of flavor.
Not to pick on snack oils, but I think I read all of those books too.
I'm sure they look very familiar to our listeners as well. So it appears sugar has a lot of explaining to do. So later in 2008, this book was published called Sweet Poison, written by Dr. Gillespie. In it, he wrote about the connection between sugar and our soaring obesity rates. Based on his research, he decided to cut sugar from his own diet and immediately began to lose weight. And the important thing was, he kept it off. He determined that because sugar was so hard to find in nature, our bodies never needed to be programmed to limit it. In other words, we can keep eating sugar without our bodies telling us to stop. And the more sugar we eat, the more we seem to want. Food manufacturers have taken advantage of this and purposely add additional sugars to process manufactured foods. You can find sugar in foods like bread now, in sauces like tomato sauces, soups, condiments like ketchup, and breakfast cereals, to make them more appealing and addicting so that we buy more. So let's take a look at how much sugar we are actually eating. As you can see from this slide, the average American consumes more than 22 teaspoons of sugar per day, which is way more than is recommended by the American Heart Association, which you can see the recommendation down at the bottom of the screen there. And the scary thing is, teens and men tend to consume even more than this. And consumption has been increasing steadily over the last 30 years. As we know now, a major culprit of added sugars to the American diet are soft drinks and other sugary sweet beverages.
All right, so let's look at why we're eating more sugar. In our highly industrialized society, sugar is available to us year-round, but this is not the natural way that humans have evolved to eat. we naturally ate by the seasons. We typically ate only sweet foods found in nature during the growing seasons, like the summer. Now, sweet foods can easily be shipped from around the world and baked into processed foods, which are available year-round. With an abundant source of calories all the time, we don't need to store our calories for times of famine like our ancestors did. But our brain hasn't evolved as fast as the food industry has, and it is still telling us to eat as much as possible to store up energy. In addition, we don't have to expend as much energy to get our food. We don't have to hunt or forage, and the farthest we have to go is really our refrigerator or the grocery store. Since we can't possibly burn off all the calories we're eating, it's being stored as fat, which leads to weight gain. So if you just look at the fruit juices, they're a form of concentrated sugars, right? I think everybody's aware of that. You would naturally get full and stop eating after 1 or maybe 2 apples if they're small, but the fresh whole fruit naturally fills you up. But not many people think twice about drinking 1 fruit juice box. You might even drink it with a meal. You see kids drinking that all the time with their lunch boxes. That's the equivalent of 6 apples. The juice contains many more calories and sugar than the whole fruit it was made from, and it no longer has the fiber in it that will fill you up and stabilize your blood sugar to keep you full for hours. And as we mentioned before, high fructose corn syrup is everywhere. High fructose corn syrup is a concentrated, processed form of sugar. It doesn't contain the fiber that's found in the fruits and vegetables. And it's added to processed foods to prevent spoiling and greatly reduces the nutritional content while increasing calories. And high fructose corn syrup is found in foods you wouldn't even think that contain sugars, as Evie mentioned before, like the ketchup or yogurt.
Ketchup
or
surprises me the most.
Yeah.
And what about like potato salad? I mean, you're not thinking there's sugar added to that, right?
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I wonder if anyone's heard of the Bliss Point. It's something that food manufacturers look for. They know of our weakness for sugar and take full advantage of it by adding as much sugar as possible to excite our taste buds. In fact, there's a crucial tipping point food companies look for when adding sugar to food, and it's called that Bliss Point. And it's the precise amount of sugar that gives the consumer a sugar high without becoming sickeningly sweet. And it's all perfectly manufactured to sell products.
So it's so interesting when we think about that we like a food, but actually it's being sold to us. And that it's not really, we're not really making the decisions we think we're making.
Yeah. And I've seen, in my clients over the year, your taste buds can come away from that, and they can change over the years. I've seen people who have gotten off sugar and they taste something with manufactured sugar, and it's shocking to them.
Way too sweet. I agree.
Way too sweet. It's sickeningly sweet. It's not even delicious anymore. I can't believe they've eaten it before. So
your taste buds do change.
Yeah, companies are constantly marketing foods in high in sugar, fat, and salt, making us want the foods that they're selling. By eating these foods frequently, we start to crave them, and we feel that we really need them to be happy.
So why is it that we crave sugar? Maybe we could just take a quick look at how our bodies use sugar. And I apologize ahead of time because we're going to get into a little bit of science, but bear with us because this is really important to understand. So the scientific word for white table sugar is actually sucrose. Sucrose is made up of 2 parts that are joined together, the glucose molecule that you see on the left there and the fructose molecule. Because they are joined together, there's always an equal number of glucose molecules and fructose molecules. So here's the difference between sugar as we know it and high fructose corn syrup. The molecules in high fructose corn syrup aren't bound together the way they are in sucrose. So this is important because it allows food manufacturers to add additional fructose to the mix. Fructose is much sweeter than glucose, and it helps the foods reach that addicting bliss point that we were talking about. So originally, high fructose corn syrup had about 45% glucose and 55% fructose, so not much of a difference. But this combination isn't regulated, so companies can change the percentage. Some products have a fructose content as high as 95%. So the question is, why do we care if there's more fructose in our food, right? So we first need to take a look at how our body gets energy from glucose in sugar. We all need sugar for energy. All of our cells need a constant supply of glucose at all times to do their jobs properly. After we eat it, it is carried by our blood to our cells for fuel, for energy. That's why we talk about blood sugar levels. I'm sure everybody's heard that mentioned before. After you eat and the glucose enters your bloodstream, your body creates something called insulin, a hormone. It's insulin's job to shuttle the sugar to where it's needed, reducing the amount of glucose in the blood. So the glucose in the sugar enters the bloodstream very rapidly. So there's a lot in the blood after consuming it. By the way, did you know we really only need about 1 teaspoon of sugar in our bloodstream at all times, compared to the 22 teaspoons that the average American is eating every day, right? So the insulin now sees all this glucose and knows it needs to do something with it. It can't stay in the bloodstream. If you need energy, your body will use the glucose. But if you don't, insulin will help store the excess glucose as fat. The result is all the glucose is quickly removed from the bloodstream, and you now have what we call low blood sugar. Your body signals that it needs energy again, and what's the fastest way to get energy into the bloodstream? That's right, you eat more sugar. You can see it's a vicious cycle.
So, Evie, what you're saying is I need to be eating foods that are low in sugar throughout the day so I don't have an excess of sugar being stored as fat.
Exactly right. So, you may have heard the term insulin resistance. Insulin has been called the fat storage hormone of the body. If we eat a diet high in sugars and processed foods, insulin will store it as fat, and we gain weight. What makes matters even worse is that over time, our insulin will start to become resistant. It will no longer function to help regulate our blood levels. When this happens, we develop metabolic syndrome. And we now know this can eventually lead to heart disease, diabetes, and obesity. So we've just described now what's happened to glucose when we eat it. So let's take a look now at that fructose. Remember that molecule that is found in abundance in high fructose corn syrup. Fructose is metabolized very differently than glucose. Instead of traveling in the bloodstream the way glucose does, it goes directly to the liver, where it is stored as fat. Because of this, fructose is even more likely to make you sick, gain weight, and even age you faster. It's also more addicting than glucose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
I know I have many clients who really feel they are addicted to sugar. It's almost like it calls them, you know.
Right.
You can't even have it anywhere near you because you're going to go,
Right.
Get it. A little bit doesn't do it for you anymore. I've heard people say, once they start, they can't stop.
And now we know that there's actually a physical reason for that, right? There's something going on, a chemical reaction that's going on in our body. And like any other addiction, you need more and more to get that bliss, right?
Yeah. So just what are some of the consequences of too much sugar over a lifetime? So Evie just mentioned metabolic syndrome that occurs after years of high sugar and processed foods in your diet. And metabolic syndrome isn't really a true disease, but it's a cluster of risk factors. You can see those in green, which identify individuals at high risk for developing chronic conditions such as type 2 diabetes, heart disease, or stroke later in life. And metabolic syndrome is a kind of like an advanced warning system. Unless you make significant changes in your lifestyle, you're at risk of developing type 2 diabetes or cardiovascular disease. But the good news is, and we see it all the time, you can improve these risk factors by making changes in your diet and your lifestyle.
Right.
So why can't we just say no?
Really? Oh, what a good question.
Well, as Evie mentioned, it's addictive, and there's a real physical reason. So just to summarize all this science that we've been talking about, you can see these 10 most addictive foods. They're familiar to all of us. They've been in our lives. Maybe they're still in our lives. Ice cream.
We call them comfort foods.
Yeah. These are the foods that,
here's our question now, right, Mary Ellen, to our listeners that are listening there. Now that you understand what's going on, are you addicted to sugar? So here are 3 different ways, little tests to kind of test and see whether you really are a sugar addict. If you're interested in finding out more about these, they're in the green box on the left here on this slide. Just send Mary Ellen or me a quick email and we can send you a link to them. But by far the easiest one to do is the one at the bottom, which is called the chocolate chip cookie test. And if the food chocolate chip cookie doesn't work for you in this instance, just think of something that you really crave all the time. So this is the way the test works. Imagine you are alone. You come home and someone's been, for some reason, has been baking in your house, and the house just smells of warm chocolate chip cookies, and there's a plate of them sitting on the counter. What kind of reaction do you have? Maybe you're reacting just by hearing me talk about these chocolate chip cookies. You don't even have to be, smelling them and eating them. Perhaps you can actually tell yourself not to eat them, but the critical part is that you want to. A person who is not addicted to sugar will be able to walk past these if they're not hungry and, not be craving them. So, Mary Ellen, what can someone do if they're addicted to sugar?
Well, that's why one of the reasons we created our program, right, Evie? Through our
Absolutely.
Eating for Your Best Self program, we're going to teach you how to eliminate processed sugars from your diet. And we will do this by introducing you to foods with natural sugars that will satisfy your cravings without feeling deprived. So we're introducing you, instead of just taking away, we're introducing you to new foods to get used to.
Right, right. So we are here to support and hold your hand through the entire process. And we'll be providing you with information, menus, healthy recipes, guidelines, and lifestyle tips to ensure that you are successful. Your body will love you. We'll give you more information about the program in a few minutes, but for now, we'd like to give you some practical information that you can start to use right now.
Yes. Okay. So one of the first ways to avoid added sugars is to know what they are and how to identify them. Reading labels, right? Sugar goes by many different names depending on its source and how it was made. So it can make it hard to identify added sugar even when you read ingredient lists and food labels. So you want to check for ingredients ending in OSE, O-S-E. That's the chemical name for many types of sugar, such as sucrose, fructose, glucose, lactose, maltose, dextrose. And in the chart on the slide, the names in red contain fructose. So you can see that fructose is very difficult to avoid.
Right. And as we said, fructose is actually sweeter than glucose.
Yeah.
So you can start by looking at nutrition labels, as Mary Ellen mentioned. They're on the back of your food boxes or containers. You'd be surprised how many things contain sugar. So this product contains about a quarter of the amount of sugar that a woman is supposed to eat in a day, according to the U.S. government guidelines. So this label doesn't tell us if the sugar is natural or added, by the way. By 2018, a new FDA ruling will require that manufacturers add a second line that would indicate the amount of sugar that that has been added. Currently, however, we need to identify added sugar by looking at its ingredient list. And here's that list of that food we were just looking at. Ingredients are listed in descending order by quantity. So if you see sugar listed among the first few ingredients, I like to say within like the first 2 or 3 ingredients, the product is likely to be high in added sugar. But beware, manufacturers can and do list different sugars separately. Notice the number of different sugars mentioned in this processed food. You can see them circled in red here. This is a trick that's used by manufacturers to hide just how much sugar has been added to a food. So sometimes even if sugar isn't listed as one of the top 4 ingredients, say, it may appear several different times under different names as shown in this list of ingredients. And remember, you saw that the list of ingredients, the list of sugars listed earlier, so you know how many different names there really are.
And that was a breakfast cereal, right, Amy?
It was a breakfast cereal. You know, and I realize it says right on top breakfast cereal there, but it is surprising to find out that breakfast cereals actually do contain a lot of sugars, which is not a good way to start our day, right?
Well, I think everyone's aware. One of the best things that you can do to reduce sugar is to don't drink sugar or high fructose corn syrup. So, you know, start to replace those things with, you know, everyone agrees that that's one of the biggest contributors to the obesity epidemic, and it's the amount of the sugar and high fructose corn syrup in the soda, the fruit juices, and the sports and energy drinks. So it's a good idea to eliminate as many of them as possible. Just, you know, if you're drinking 3 a day, start drinking 2 a day, and then over time, start drinking 1 a day. Just keep adding more water, right?
And that's a good point. So drink more water. I like that, Mary Ellen. That's a great suggestion. Another good drink would be, say, green tea or herbal teas. Drinks that are low in calories, but the calories in drinks are usually from sugar. So they're lower in sugar. Hydration is the first rule of proper nutrition and good health. So one rule of thumb is to drink half your weight in ounces every day. And again, remember that all liquids are not created equal. It's best to drink liquids that are free of artificial sweeteners because they're not good for us either. Free of sugar, low in caffeine, and try to avoid alcohol.
All right, so we're going from drinking to eating. We know that eating begins with the simple act of chewing, and chewing starts digestion by starting the release of digestive enzymes in our saliva that breaks down food. And we teach our clients to slow down and try to consume a meal in no less than 20 minutes. There are a lot of tricks to retrain yourself for better digestion and to help with overeating.
Another way to reduce sugar cravings is to eat food that you like. Seems pretty obvious, doesn't it? In our program, we don't give you a limited diet plan with foods you have to eat that you don't want to eat. We do give you lots of recipes that are made with a wide variety of healthy food options for you to choose from. These will satisfy you with healthy foods and reduce cravings for sweets as well. Our hope is that these recipes can become your new go-to favorites.
So a minute ago I mentioned overeating, and the amount of food you eat is just as important as what you're eating. So our program begins with a 1-week transitional phase to get ready for the 2-week food plan, including how to upgrade your refrigerator and pantry foods to ensure that you have healthy food choices when cravings strike.
And in our Eating for Your Best Self program, you'll also see suggestions for flavor enhancers like herbs and spices that will satisfy you. Our recipes also include naturally sweet foods to naturally satisfy your sweet tooth. Many vegetables and fruits supply the sweetness our bodies crave and have the added bonus of healthy fiber, minerals, vitamins, and phytonutrients.
Let's not forget the importance of snacks. They help keep sugar levels steady throughout the day, preventing us from becoming overly hungry, which can lead to overeating. And for that reason, our program includes many healthy, blood sugar stabilizing snacks.
Right, made with natural ingredients, but still satisfying some of that sweetness. So, did you know that protein can also help with weight loss and prevent sugar cravings? Because protein does not stimulate the release of insulin, as do carbohydrates and sugars, it actually helps to stabilize blood sugar levels. So our Eating for Your Best Self program recipes and suggestions offer many healthy protein sources.
And we're talking about the importance of protein, and did you know that scientific research shows that it is important for us to start our day with a breakfast that is rich in healthy fats and protein? And this helps to give us energy throughout the day and resist those sugar cravings too. And there are 9 different delicious breakfast suggestions for our program participants to enjoy.
Yum. So crowding out less healthy foods with healthier food choices, as opposed to taking away foods, effectively improves diet and reduces cravings. We'll show you how this is done in our Eating for Your Best Self program.
So Evie and I both got help and changed our lives. I was addicted to chocolate cake and ice cream, seriously. I no longer crave them or have them in my life, and it doesn't even faze me.
Oh, and I could so relate to that. And now I can step away from those chocolate chip cookies, so that did mean something to me. And the birthday cake that always talked to me. And I no longer crave sugar.
And we really don't feel deprived. We just have new foods to enjoy and the freedom of not being addicted. And we're both healthier, have more energy, and are better for not having sugar in our lives.
Exactly. So we want to offer you the benefit of our experience and knowledge through our program. So we've developed a program we call Eating for Your Best Self, based on programs that we have each individually tested and tried, and that helped us identify the connection of that our bodies had with different types of foods. We believe that food is medicine. As Hippocrates famously stated, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. We've not only seen this personally, but with our clients and in the nutrition science and research.
Yeah, and the program doesn't just focus on low or no sugar in the diet, but it also targets gluten, dairy, and other possible allergens or sensitivities. So let's tell them, Evie, what they can get and expect from our program in terms of materials, recipes, and support.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Well, first, when you sign up, you'll receive a personalized program guide with an introduction and a step-by-step guide to prepare your pantry and your refrigerator, meaning what kinds of things to look at in your kitchen and perhaps remove, as well as a complete shopping list of foods to bring in. And you'll do this during the week before your meal plans start. And that brings us to the meal plans.
Exactly. Yes, but before we go on to the meal plans, those of you on the call listening might be thinking, yeah, but what are the people in my house going to eat? And what do I do with those cookies that my family likes? Good question. Don't worry, we're going to be with you on a private Facebook page for participants, and you can email us at any time with questions or concerns. So we're there for you at all times. So what we might say about the cookies then is strategically move the cookies so they're not tempting you. The new foods that you'll be bringing in will be front and center. Don't worry, each person's situation is different, and that's why you have access to us and others for support. We want you to be successful, and we'll work during the program to help you achieve your goals.
Okay, great. Now let's get on to the meal plans, because I know everyone is curious about what they'll be eating.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes, and how easy it will be to prepare these meals, especially for those working full-time and cooking for a family. As an Eating for Your Best Self program participant, you'll not only learn the Cook Once, Eat Twice strategy, which is key, but you'll also receive your Eating for Your Best Self cookbook with 38 delicious recipes, including 14 easy dinner recipes that your family will also go for, 14 exciting lunch recipes to break you out of the sandwich and salad rut, and 8 nutritious and filling breakfast recipes to power up your day.
Yeah. And we also know how important greens are, and in our cookbook there are also 4 new and exciting greens recipes for you to try.
Absolutely. We've planned 2 weeks of delicious, healthy, easy recipes for 1 or 2 people, but we'll serve a family as well without any strange or hard-to-find ingredients. Most of the items on the shopping list can be found in a regular grocery store. There are 1 or 2 items maybe that are optional that you can easily find in any health food store. So for those of you who are more adventurous, we'll let you explore the health food store a little bit with some guidance. We are giving you lots of options. If you don't like the way a recipe sounds, or you don't think your family would enjoy it, don't make it. Since there are enough recipe options, you can make something twice or more and have leftovers. Yeah, and
Evie, I told you about, and we put in one of my favorite easy hands-off family dinner recipes. It's something that we in my household call velvet chicken. And this was actually inspired years ago from an article my husband found in the New York Times. And I won't give away the recipe, but let's just say it cooks itself. It gives you leftovers for your lunch the next day, and a delicious homemade organic chicken stock to use for our soups and other recipes in the cookbook.
Absolutely. Oh, and I love the salmon baked in parchment or foil. It is so easy to do, and it's a no-fail.
Easy cleanup, too.
Yep. So the other thing about the recipes is that you can prepare them in advance. So if you're prepping over the weekend or on days off, really helps the week go a lot smoother.
Great. And yes, I know I try to do that each week, too, and it really, really helps. Okay, so there's more. We already mentioned the private Facebook group and email support. And these are totally optional, and if you're not into Facebook, you don't have to get on if you don't want to. You can reach out to us privately on email as an option anytime during the program.
Or after that, for that matter.
Oh, yeah, or even after that, for that matter, for sure.
Right. So you might be asking, what's next? What happens after the 2 weeks of meals that you provide? What do I do then? We give you a step-by-step instructions on maintenance for healthy eating for a lifetime. You determine what foods are best for your body based on how you feel. It's all about learning to eat intuitively by listening to your own body. You'll no longer need to count calories, weigh and measure food, or record what you are eating in order to lose weight. You'll be eating for your best self.
Yeah, that's a lot of good info. All right, so our Eating for Your Best Self program is $139 for everything we just talked about. And as a thank you for listening on this webinar and getting in on the ground floor of our new program, if you sign up by October 8th, you will only pay $99, which is a $40 savings.
Right, and if you sign up today, in addition to the 2 weeks of recipes that I mentioned, you'll also get easy bonus recipes for additional snacks, appetizers, side dishes, and soups. These recipes will help stave off hunger and sugar cravings, and you won't be feeling deprived.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Chia pudding.
Mm-hmm. So signing up is easy. After this webinar, we'll be sending you a follow-up email. Simply click on the attached link to join and submit your payment. We'll start sending you the program materials right away.
Yeah. And we'll also send you an invitation to the Facebook group. It's a closed group, so once you pay, we'll send you the invitation, and just accept the invitation on Facebook,
Right.
and we can start communicating there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So that concludes our presentation today. We'd love to hear if there was something new that you learned from this webinar. Feel free to type something out to us. And if you learned something just in this short time, just think what you can learn by going through the program, right?
Right. So we'd be happy to take any questions about what we talked about today, or anything you took notes on, or about our new Eating for Your Best Self program.
Mm-hmm.
And you can just type any questions that you have in the chat bubble.
Wonderful. And here are our emails on the screen. If you have any questions for us and would like to email us directly, feel free to do so. We'd like to say thank you for participating, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. All right, so I'm going to...
Oh, and yeah, Mary Rose said, thanks for a great webinar.
Oh, very good. Well, thank you, Mary Rose.
If there
are
no other questions, we hope to speak with you soon. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. You know what, we'll stay online for a few minutes, just if anybody has any questions.
Maybe you just have to fix your presentation. Oh, no, there it is.
I just went out of it so I could see if there was any question. Bye, all.
Thanks for the